All right, how's it going, everybody? CVH here. Today we are going over uh round 4 in IDC33. It's not even close to filling up the screen. There we go. This match was up against Brather. Is that right? That's right. And we're just narrating it afterwards. I don't remember why. I think I still had a cold actually for this match. I was getting over it still, so I didn't do any live commentary. But we're going to go over it, take a look at the game after a couple weeks have passed now. Actually, the whole IDC 33 tournament's over by the time I'm finally getting around to narrating this. I'm pretty busy nowadays. But yeah, let's jump in, see how it goes. I remember very little about this match. Should be interesting to see. Hopefully it's entertaining. It'll probably be entertaining to me and surprising because it's been a while. The only thing I remember is that I think Brather was on Light Water Dark Nature Fortress Burn. Watch me be incorrect there. I don't play my 2. I'm not really going to go the aggro line here. It looks like I get a bronze arm on 3, though. That's pretty solid. And we're off to the races. Logic Cube went down, and Brother's playing Energy Stream. Tons of cards in hands. So this Locomotiver is not going to be the most accurate thing ever. I just go with the Hulkus instead. See if I can pick off something a little bit higher value later after Brather has spent more cards. Immediately hit Spiral Gate here, bouncing Hulkus, which honestly isn't the worst thing in the world for me. This is a matchup that really hinges on the Ice Vapor part of the equation in Ice Sword. And I haven't seen any yet, so getting to replay Hulkus and draw more cards isn't the worst for me. Wow, Brather goes with another Spiral Gate here to get rid of Bronze Arm Tribe. People played some really aggressive Spiral Gates against me. I guess they thought I was going to go like super aggro. And that's a pretty good Ice Vapor, I think. Looks like this turn, if I want, I can put either Surfer or Bronze Arm down, play Ice Vapor, the next turn play Hulkus and Locomotiver. I don't go with that. Am I going double 3 here? That's kind of interesting. I don't mind it so much, actually. Okay, so I guess my logic here was that this turn is going to be Sky Sword for my opponent anyway, so Ice Vapor is not really going to be too impactful. So yeah, this makes a bit of sense. And if for some reason my opponent didn't have a Sky Sword, they still couldn't Lost Soul me, so it might just be like another Energy Stream turn or something like that, maybe Cranium Clamp, then I can drop Ice Vapor the following turn and I'll have 2 creatures to attack with on board, which is pretty solid. I am liking Ice Vapor quite a bit. Looking at this now, I wonder if I'll spot a lot of misplays or a lot of things I would do differently, but what's jumping out to me immediately is Soul Swap to get rid of... I probably keep, I don't know, the Beast Folk or the Hulkus. I don't know, swap something out for Bloom and then use the 5 mana I will have for Ice Vapor, and I get to keep all the other cards in my hand if I do that. And my opponent could Lost Soul me, but then... I would have a pretty powerful board. I don't like this play. I don't think I do. I mean, I think what I'm going for here is next turn I can play like Sky Sword and Vapor. Apparently I was having trouble actually targeting the Bronze Arm Tribe, as you have to do in Octagon. So I'll probably wind up just putting it on the board and having to replay it over it. But I'm pretty sure Soul Swap out Hulkus if I want to keep the Beast Folk, or just Bronze Arm because I can play Sky Sword later. I think it's Soul Swap out Hulkus for Blue Mercus, and then tap 5 for Ice Vapor here. That gives me a board of Bronze Arm Tribe, Ice Vapor, Bloom, which is like way better than this board in several ways. I also don't need to break shields this turn. I don't know why I'm rushing to break shields. This is a very oddly played turn. Yeah, I think I got more familiar with Ice Vapor, or with Ice Sword rather, as the tournament dragged on. Because this play is very weak to like a Terra Pit or a Soul Swap like we see here. Or even just like, I don't know, another Spiral Gate into Lost Soul would be devastating. Surfer. All these are cards in my opponent's deck. At least if I played the Bloom, I'm not like losing 2 creatures on board, and I'd have Ice Vapor to back it up, which is really good for me. So yeah, I think it was the other play, and then next turn I can very comfortably play a Fighter Dual Fang if I want. But like I said, I think I got better with this deck as the tournament drew on. It's a small sample size, obviously, and hey, this is round 4. I shouldn't be making plays like this. But yeah, I think this is a turn I would have played a lot better later in the tournament. Interesting. Like, I never would, if I was doing live commentary, for example, you obviously wouldn't have, maybe a lot of you would have caught that. Some of you might not have, but maybe it wouldn't have been quite as illustrated how much of a misplay that was, because I think it's pretty bad. I've also grown to appreciate Blue Mercus more throughout the tournament, so maybe that's a bit of a spoiler, right? You might see more Blue Mercus action in future matches. It is only a 1-of in this deck, but I think, first of all, I was scared about Elzonius, because Elzonius did well in the last IDC, so I played 2 Fighter Duel Fangs as a precaution, but I think I would play 2 Blue Mercus now in the deck. And I think knowing how good Bloom has been in this deck in particular, especially backed up by Ice Vapor, makes me more inclined to have made the other play. But I obviously did not think the same those many turns ago. So we get hit by Plague, and it's still definitely a game here. Yeah, now I finally play Ice Vapor. It's never too late for Ice Vapor to be good in this matchup. Ice Vapor is incredibly annoying, makes opponents do very odd things to get rid of it. Not hovering over it, but for those of you who don't know what the card does, whenever the opponent plays a spell, they have to discard a card from their hand. They choose what card they discard, and then they also destroy a card in their mana. And Light, Water, Dark, Nature, Fortress Burn is just tons of spells. So many spells. And also Fortress Shells. So my opponent plays mana and taps 9 here, which makes me think it's a Fortress Shell. But I don't know if that makes a ton of sense, because let's see, it would put me down to 7. I could charge up to 8, and then Bronze Arm Fighter Dual Fang is a potential play for me if I can get an untapped mana off of the Bronze Arm tribe. So I don't know if he actually had Fortress Shell, but he goes with something much safer here, involving getting additional shields. And of course, getting rid of Ice Vapor when he had a bunch of cards in hand, to spare. My opponent's down to 2 cards in hand. I hope what I don't do. I don't. Let's see here. What did I wind up going with? I don't like getting super aggressive this turn, like playing a Fighter Dual Fang. There's a couple things that seem kind of reasonable. I think the best is probably Soul Swap. Then I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. Soul Swap out Bronze Arm to play Bloom. Then play Bronze Arm Tribe, and then if I get an untapped mana, play Sky Sword. Or maybe in the other order, I'll play Sky Sword first, then if I get an untapped mana, I can play Bronze Arm. There's also double Soul Swap for double Loco, which will get rid of my opponent's hand. But at that point, I'm out of Soul Swaps, so Bloom is kind of stuck in the mana zone. I think I might actually have been baited into playing the swaps this turn because of my opponent tapping 9 and then untapping, and I really think one of them is a Fortress Shell. But looking at the hand, like, if all I did was Soul Swap out Bronze Arm for Bloom, and then play Bronze Arm Sky Sword, or even just one of them if I don't hit the untapped mana, like, why would I have been so scared of Fortress Shell? My board would be Blue Mercus and 2 other creatures. I would have a Surfer if I want to deal with the Fortress Shell, just so it doesn't trade into anything. And I'm threatening to break all the shields and maybe even kill my opponent if I have Fighter Dual Fang in hand still and I want to go that route instead. I can simply Fighter Dual Fang on the bait that'll be around. This is another oddly played turn. And what do I discard? I discard Energy Stream, which is like, okay, yeah, my opponent's not going to get value. But again, if I just applied the pressure to the board this turn, that wouldn't have been a problem. Okay, I go for like a half play, or like a half aggressive play. It's better than not going for it, but I think I was baited into playing that first Soul Swap. I don't think I should have done it. And yeah, either way, Terror Pit was apparently going to come down and deal with the Blue Mercus, which is kind of sad. But yeah, if I had gone the other way, I mean, it's a totally different situation because he had Energy Stream that he could have played. But theoretically, I would still be potentially threatening to break all of the shields this turn, which I think is maybe good enough depending on shield triggers. There are a ton of shield triggers in Brather's version of the deck. Still kind of a game, right? I'm still assuming one of my opponent's cards is a Fortress Shell, which is a little bit annoying, but not really impacting the board. So the game plan for me here is just to play as many things to the board as possible and prey on the fact that Brather's deck doesn't really have good wide removal. It's like Plague to deal with 2 things, or Holia, which is starting to get pretty good here, I guess. But it's going to be a Plague on the Bronze Arm and Sky Sword. I dumped the Sky Sword because it mills me 2 cards instead of 1. Because I'm down to 14 cards in deck here. Worth considering that a Bronze Arm into Fighter Dual Fang play mills me an additional 3 cards. So at this point, I'm thinking the race is between me building up a board to deal with a blocker, 4 shields, and attacking for lethal versus Brather's ability to just mill me, which will only take about 10 turns, 9 turns if I play the Fighter Dual Fang Bronze Arm. And it's looking like I'm going to need to play those cards in order to win the game. I wonder if, because the clock is ticking, do I wind up going for... Oh, I go for a Soul Swap. Okay, I Soul Swap into the Locomotiver to hit the last card. I like this one. And I hit Lost Soul. Yeah, I do like that play. I don't get mana to play the other Bronze Arm this turn, but that's probably okay-ish. Actually, it could be annoying, right? Because now I can't play Fighter Dual Fang and Surfer in the same turn. Well, I can, but I wouldn't get a new bait to play the Dual Fang on top of. Rather gets back Soul Swap from the discard and is just on the replay Sky Sword plan. So it looks like we haven't broken shields at all this turn. We have, I promise. Another Fighter Dual Fang. This is also kind of where it came back to bite me a little bit. When I took out the second bloom for the second Fighter Dual Fang. In this match in particular, I really would have preferred to play a Blue Mercus on a relatively safe board state where my opponent got Soul Swap back but then used it immediately to get a new shield instead of saving it for like utility. He just already played it, which is maybe a little bit sus, but if that was Blue Mercus, it'd be a lot safer to play right here. Like that looks like it might have been a shield trigger, who knows? Well, if it was a shield trigger, why wouldn't he have played it, right? So it probably isn't. Probably not. But either way, 1 bloom and 1 fighter in the situation would be better than 2 fighters. So maybe the ratio is back to... It should be back to what it was at the start of the deck, where it's 1 fighter Dual Fang and 2 blooms. Maybe I was a little bit too strange with the card counts. Regardless, Brather's cards appear to all be Sky Swords, which is a little bit sad for me. I'm down to 7 cards in deck. And my opponent has now played 11 shields. Which is a lot to deal with. Yeah, Sky Sword's tough. My removal is like Surfers and bounce and stuff, so if I want to remove my opponent's cards to have them not crack back, I don't really want to bounce my opponent's Sky Swords and let him replay them. I think I wind up thinking about this turn a lot. Not a whole lot of good options for me, except for continuing the turn, Fighter Dual Fang sideways. Probably play the second one. Probably don't play... Actually, it's probably just playing the Surfer, yeah. My opponent will have to somehow find an answer to both things. Both large Fighter Dual Fangs. This is all contingent upon like all of these shields being total bricks. And as we can see here, they definitely weren't. But theoretically, if Belix came down and got a spell to deal with 1 Fighter Dual Fang, I could just Holy Other Belix the following turn with my opponent at 0 shields, and the Fighter Dual Fang that wasn't dealt with would survive. That's the thought, at least. Very optimistic. And clearly did not come to fruition. But even in this case, if my opponent just plays Belix and has to Soul Swap Fighter Dual Fang, I can Holy Awe the Belix, Double Break, and Surfer for lethal. But I think something spicy happens this turn. with a special nod to my deck count being 5 right now. So Brather plays foul, gets the soul swap back. Yeah. Soul swap. I think for a second that maybe it's going to do something defensive, but no, it's sadly not. It's a soul swap in my Sky Sword. And I see the writing on the wall here. Sky Sword's effect is mandatory. I go down to 3 cards in deck. And yep, there we go. But yeah, he did it in the wrong order for a second. But yeah, he Belixes the soul swap. Oh, he didn't do that in the wrong order. I just got confused looking at the logs. But yeah, and needless to say, the play was getting double swap, using them both on Sky Swords, putting me at one card in deck, and then I would draw the last card and immediately lose on my turn. So lost to mill. Lost to a non-mill deck milling me out. It's kind of funny because this is a 43 card version of Ice Sword, so I'm a little bit less susceptible to it, but I played so many dang Fighter Dual Fangs and Sky Swords. Some of them not, necessarily because I wanted to, but because my opponent swapped them out for me. But we're moving on to game 2, and if I really look back at that game, I think the critical turn was the one where I locomotivered instead of just plopping a Bloom out and playing Ice Vapor. I think that was probably better. Maybe I thought because I didn't have Ice Vapor early, it wasn't worth doing so quick. This is an interesting line, just going in. I wind up not having the mana for Bronze Arm Tribe on turn 3. I still go in. I'm trying to just get shield triggers out of the way with that play. And my thought is that since I don't already have Ice Vapor in hand, the odds of winning the value game are a little slim, but like this hand does not sustain aggression very well. So this is kind of a Hail Mary play. This works out though, because I get my opponent to Spiral Gate my Emerald, which is kind of a weak line for sure. Now I can finally play Bronze Arm Tribe. Seems pretty good. I think I debated actually putting the Surfer down. Because right now it's my only actual play for next turn, but I wind up going for it. I'm trying to fish for Ice Vapor. I don't hit Ice Vapor, I hit a Soul Swap, which is probably one of the more useless cards in this particular situation. 1 Soul Swap is nice to have. 2 with no other plays, not very good. But they both get discarded anyway by Cranium Clamp. It is what it is. I do draw another Surfer and cannot play it. And then I start breaking more shields and immediately hit a shield trigger. And that shield break is just in the wrong order. That was just an inaccurate attack. Bronze Arm should go first there. Because if it is Terror Pit, not that it would be a feel-good Terror Pit, but I think Brather would take it anyway just to, stop the aggression. But if Bronze Arm attacks first, Terror Pit has to hit Emerald, and then I get to keep my Beast Folk on board. It's painful to sometimes, I'll tell you, to look back and watch your plays, knowing full well that they were mistakes. Goodness me. Locomotiver comes down, discards a Soul Swap. At this point, I have to stop attacking. There's no good things could come of that attack. Now it is, it's looking a little bit grim here. Brather has still several cards in hand. I have a couple, but they're not very strong. And he's pretty much free to do whatever he wants. More Sky Swords would be pretty painful. A Lost Soul this turn would have been pretty decent too. Just starve me for cards. Can't hate the replay of Sky Sword there, especially with Foul to get back Soul Swap if it is. Yeah, it is. So yeah, he's got a board that contests mine. He's back to 5 shields. Down to 1 card in hand though. That's the saving grace here. And I have a lot of... Wait a second. Wait a second. Why? I'm not... Why did I play Bronze Arm Tribe there? What was my thought process? I have no idea what my thought process was there. Was my thought process that if I fouled and got back swap, my opponent would value the swap so highly he would locomotive it out of my hand with his own swap? Trade swap for swap? I'm not sure. That's kind of a strange one. So I was thinking Fal could get back swap, and then maybe I locomotive for the last card next turn, which obviously wouldn't have happened. See, also this turn I could just foul back the Plague, and then I wouldn't be able to play it because I have no Darkness mana. But I feel like maybe this time Bronze Arm is more correct. Yeah, I like the Bronze Arm that turn, because I don't know what I'm going to actually want to get back. And here I'll just Sky Sword, right? Try to fish for Darkness mana. Something that will make me comfortable getting Plague back with Fal. Okay, that's actually really good for me. And it immediately is less good for me when Brather draws Soul Swap to replay Fortress Shell. Yeah, the name of the game here is to play a reasonable amount of creatures. Step 1 complete. Foul to get back Miraculous Plague, which I no longer can do, but I drew Ice Vapor, so that's kind of nice. And ideally, like, Miraculous Plague 2 attackers away, and then go for a 2-turn, or even 1 turn if I just don't hit shield triggers. Surfer's kind of annoying. I have to be aware that my opponent can also put up reasonable pressure here. Blue Mercus is a pretty incredible draw. When it comes to killing your opponents, Bloom's pretty good at it. So it looks like next turn is the turn that I'm committed to probably attacking. Although I guess I could theoretically wait 1 more turn. I think it's probably right to just jam this Ice Vapor and start breaking. Especially because 2 of the shields, if they are shield trigger spells, will strictly benefit me. I guess playing the mana is fine. And we'll flip these over and see what we get. We get a Spiral Gate, not bad. And a Stream. I think I bounced the Fortress Shell here. It's not a card you always want your opponent to be able to replay, but it does cost 9. And with only 11 mana, I know Brather is going to prefer to use the mana on ways to deal with my creatures. So Fortress Shell is probably not a play for next turn. So it's kind of a free bounce, whereas the other cards could be more beneficial in a situation like this. And all the other creatures continue breaking. And it looks like barring Holy Awe, we get there. Yep, that is a situation. And we move to 1 and 1. Game 3. I still haven't opened with Ice Vapor, I think, in this matchup, which is definitely something I would want to do. This hand is... I don't think it's the worst to the match. It's the slowest. You know, no Bronze Arm Tribe, no Hulkus. But I'm on the draw, and I have double Locomotiver, which is actually pretty strong. If my opponent doesn't play Energy Stream. Which, of course, I was hoping with this hand that it would be something like Bronze Arm Tribe, but it was not. But hey, I drew my own Bronze Arm Tribe. Not bad, not bad. So now I'm thinking to myself that maybe the Locomotivers aren't going to be good enough with Brather having so many cards in hand, but I can build to a powerful Lost Soul on maybe turn 6. Maybe I can use Locomotiver to snipe his Lost Soul, or maybe snipe his Mana Ramp to get him to an early Lost Soul. He thought about this turn for a while. Lamp down. That surprised me a lot. Yeah, okay, so this turn, I thought about this in the moment, and I'm pretty sure it's just a strict mistake. I don't really have any idea why it wasn't the opposite play. Like Spiral Gate down, or maybe something else down, who knows. But at the very least, he could have Spiral Gate in mana and played Cranium Clamp and discarded half my hand immediately, which I think is much better than, not really necessarily about the ramp, but like I wasn't really getting aggressive enough to warrant that. And in this case, the ramp actually benefited me a ton, because now I'm going up to 7 before my opponent's going up to 7, especially if the clamp was followed by Sky Sword. I wouldn't have had more ramp, and since my opponent was on the play, he would have beaten me to Lost Soul. So I think, what did we actually wind up discarding? My opponent discarded Terrapit, Memory, Plague. Okay. So there's several ways. I mean, depending on when the memory was in hand, it could have been turn 4 Memory, turn 5 Sky Sword, turn 6 Lost Soul that was searched with Memory. I think definitely the clamp was better. If Memory was in hand, that might have been the play. Memory, Sky Sword, Lost Soul. Try to beat me to the Lost Soul race. I don't think Spiral Gate Bronze Arm is as good. So I feel less bad about my misplay in game 1, or potentially multiple misplays in game 1. Maybe one in game 2, too. I don't know. Because I think we sort of evened out. I think this game was made a lot easier for me by the Spiral Gate on Bronze Arm tribe. It would have been something if it was like one turn before Fighter Dual Fang, but even then, like, you've got other answers. Just wait for the Dual Fang and then bounce it once I've spent like 9 mana playing the things. Something like that. Because he had 5 shields at the time and he had Sky Sword in hand. There was really no reason to be scared. It was just something to do, but I think Cranium Clamp was a better thing to do. Anyway, moving right along, not to dwell on that for too long. We are now in the Ice Vapor stage of the game. It's time to build up a board and try to go for a 2-turn, which is going to be hard because my opponent has a million shields and a lot of things on board to crack back. None of my creatures are very good here. They don't have relevant effects at the moment. Kalan could maybe be passable on a future turn. Allows my Helgas to 2-for-1 or something. I get Plague back, which I guess is fine. I guess I'm committing to putting one of these Locomotivers in mana. The main reason, actually, to play the Belix is to make Kalan a better card. My opponent drew and tapped 7. This has to be... Lost Soul would have been very juicy here for my opponent, especially because he's top decking and wouldn't have to discard with the Ice Vapor's effect. Plague, however, feels not worth it. I can't say for sure, but I don't think... I mean, this is a weird situation. I don't think I would have played the Plague if I were him. I think I would have waited to try to build up more cards, or at least answer Ice Vapor first or something. But like Plague before he can start attacking is pretty mediocre. Like looking at my hand, I didn't have a lot of ways to deal with creatures. I had the Plague myself, but again, that's just going to bounce Sky Sword, so I'm going to have to wait several turns to make that good. I get setting me back in mana, but now I can just build up a board, kinda without fear. I'll just replay Ice Vapor immediately. I think in his shoes, I would have just prayed to draw more creatures. Sky Swords, Fowls, Bronze Arm, Surfer, Fortress Shells, Locomotiver, all the good stuff. And then once he has like 4 or 5 creatures out, or maybe even more, depending on how many I have out. Like if he's not threatened, he can just wait. Because I say his deck doesn't have mass removal, neither does mine. If he has more creatures faster and more shields to hide behind, he can just wait and then Plague me, get rid of my blocker and one of my attackers, and who cares about Ice Vapor's effect? He's going to break all my shields, maybe kill me. I think maybe that was a wait, but it's like a really difficult matchup to navigate from the Fortress Shell player's perspective when there's an Ice Vapor on board, especially when there's 2. It's like I can't play anything. But it feels bad because a lot of turns wind up being nothing turns, but sometimes a nothing turn is right. Sometimes you just have to wait and hope that you top deck better and play 1 card a turn or 0 cards a turn for many turns on end. Against an aggressive deck without Ice Vapor, you can just like, you know, play the removal as you get it, basically. It's kind of hard to mess it up. But top decking against an Ice Vapor on board is obviously not where Fortress Shell is the strongest. I mean, it's where the Fortress Shell would be an amazing top deck, but the deck, I mean. Whose turn is it? Brather's? Okay, he draws. Top deck something and untaps. This is looking clearly like either Bronze Arm Loco or Kalan Loco. Like putting the Bronze Arm down. I think they're both fine. Looks like I can serve the creature. Call on, tap a Sky Sword, kill it with Belix is kind of nice too, but I definitely want a Locomotiver here because he drew in past. Doesn't really imply that it's a powerful card, just implies that it's a spell. But since there is a card to discard, might as well do it. Although in retrospect, I could have just not done it. Could have just played Bronze Arm Colon, and that actually might have been better. Because if we think my opponent's holding a creature, he would have played it. If it's a spell, then he'll just wind up, I don't know. I don't know. There's like some logic to holding... No, I don't know. If it was a good spell like Holy Awe here, he would have jammed the Holy Awe immediately to kill my Ice Vapors. So yeah, maybe it was actually Colon Bronze Arm. Maybe that's a slight misplay. Yeah, he Locomotivers my Aqua Sniper, which is pretty sad. My plan this game was to go Sniper into Plague, bounce 2 things, present another attacker, and then use Plague again to bounce when I'm going for the 2-turn. Bouncing Loco Bronze Arm would have been okay. Like, yeah, they have come into play effects, but they would no longer be able to trade with things. So now it's a question of just, like, how long do I wait? I think the play here is Colon and Locomotiver. I don't play... Okay, I remember this play in particular because it's another misplay. I immediately regretted not playing Locomotiver. It's an obvious Locomotiver. And I passed the turn here. I think about it now. Like, right now you're witnessing the time where I'm thinking about this. And I realize I'm like, I could have started attacking this turn. But attacking next turn is better. But if I'm attacking next turn, I should have played Locomotiver. Even if I was attacking this turn, I should have played Locomotiver. Locomotiver should have been played. The only thing that would potentially punish me for playing Locomotiver is if my opponent top decks Locomotiver and discards my Plague. That's really it. But 99 times out of 100, the Locomotiver is going to be more beneficial on board here than it would ever be being saved for like another discard. I was thinking about the value, but the real value in my creatures is just as dumb little 1,000 and 2,000 power bodies that are going to start turning sideways next turn. So yeah, mistake. That for sure is a mistake. I think I might have realized that as soon as I attacked with Belix, I was like, dang, should have played the Locomotiver here. Can't do it after I attack, but that was definitely a mistake. Now the question is, do I wait another turn? And I think the answer to that question will come in the top of my deck. If I draw a card I can play alongside Locomotiver, then yeah, I can play Loco and the other creature and wait one more turn to start attacking. But if not, I might just have to start attacking with one fewer creature than I should have on board. Because, like, I can't wait around forever and let him eventually top deck good cards. Plague here would still put him down to just a Sky Sword, which on board is answered by the Belix, and then 6 shields get broken. And that's incredible. It's not quite as good as if it was a 7th shield getting broken. He thinks about this turn for a long, long time. I wonder what the card is. It's probably like a complicated card. Like Soul Swap. But there aren't so many options with Soul Swap, right? You just Soul Swap in Sky Sword for an extra shield, burn 2 mana. It's arguably fine. Not great. Let's see. He has 9 mana, so go up to 10, then back down to 8. Then he wouldn't be able to top deck Fortress Shell. Yeah, maybe it's not good, because then you can't top deck Fortress Shell. No way he thought that long about a Sky Sword from hand, though. It's got to be a foul. Foul's a complicated card. I get it. Is there a clamp in the discard, or are they both in mana? I can't remember, and I'm watching the recording back, so I can't like check my opponent's discard pile. Foul on the clamp would be good here. I think that's worth going down to 7 mana. Now you got the Plague. See, it all comes full circle, right? It's the fact they didn't play clamp on turn 4 meant he couldn't foul clamp this turn, even though it would be a totally different timeline and the game state would be totally different. And here's another time where I feel very punished. Well, not necessarily. This is interesting. I mean, it did actually kind of pay off. Remember when I said like 99 times out of 100? It would benefit me to have played Locomotiver last turn. I think we just hit the 100th time. Where like the only thing good about Locomotiver is it prevents my opponent from going foul and into plague and holding the plague for a turn, which is really funny. So it looks like Brather probably goes for the exact same play. Didn't have mana there, so I assume he's getting something back that he cannot play. The Locomotiver did pay off, but I stand by playing it to the board the previous turn having been correct. I should have done that, and then this past turn would have been Miraculous Plague on 2 creatures and attack. Attack, attack, attack. Yeah, Plague came back to Brather's hand a second time, and I think it is time, finally, for the Miraculous Plague. It's going to hit the fouls because they're huge and expensive. Sky Sword's expensive too, but it's a better card to play in a situation like Brather is in. And I'm bouncing Fortress Shell on foul because, again, they're huge and expensive. Or expensive. I don't care that they're big. I mean, they're in mana right now, so yeah. Attacking with the Ice Vapor first. We talked about this a couple matches ago. If you didn't see one of the earlier matches, I don't remember which one it was, but I did it in the wrong order. This is the right order to do things, because if my opponent plays shield triggers, they want to deal with the Ice Vapor, but they also want to deal with the cards that haven't attacked yet. So doing it like this will preserve the Ice Vapors, and if they stay until the next turn, if my opponent is playing spells before attacking my creatures, all of those spells will also proc the Ice Vapor's effect. So attacking with Ice Vapor first is weirdly the way to do it if they are going to turn sideways at all that turn. Obviously, if you're not attacking with Ice Vapor, if you just have like one other thing to attack with, don't attack with Ice Vapor. But if you're attacking with everything, including Ice Vapor, probably have the Ice Vapor go first in a situation like this to make the spells much more annoying to play, make the targets worse for your opponent. And it's in the same way that you would attack with usually like the strongest creature first, usually, when you're not playing around like Burst Shot, for example. Then you would obviously attack with the smaller thing first. Attack order is tough, but that seems like the right attack order. So this turn, Brather is completely 100% dead on board, except, trivia, what is the one card that Lightwater Dark Nature Fortress Burn could be playing that would save Brather here? I'll give you 5 seconds to answer. What card would almost definitely win Brather the game? If you answered Vampire Sylphie, you are correct. Vampire Sylphie is an 8 cost. When it's played, it destroys everything 3,000 power or less. It would wipe the board entirely. And it's a creature. Bonus points. He doesn't even have to discard cards or get rid of mana. So at this point, I'm terrified. He played Fortress in mana, put it back, and I was like, okay, he was just debating what to play in mana to go up to 8 to play the tech 1 of Vampire Sylphie that we haven't seen all match. Which would just be absolutely devastating for me. Pretty much immediately game losing, I think. I'll need to get more Sky Swords going, but I imagine with 10 other cards in hand, it would be very possible to do so, or 9 other cards rather. But we dodged the Vampire Sylphie, unless there was a Sylphie in the deck all along and he was trying to fish for it with Sky Sword to soul swap it in. Who knows? We'll never know. But it didn't happen this turn. Wouldn't that be something if, like, Sky Sword put Vampire Sylphie in mana, but he didn't have swap, but then I broke the swap in the last shield, and he swapped in Vampire Sylphie to full clear? In that case, oh my goodness. What if I played Fighter Duelfang next turn to dodge Vampire Sylphie, but I attacked in the wrong order and did Duelfang first, and Vampire Sylphie cleared? So many what ifs. Crazy. This is making me want to play some good old Vampire Sylphie. He was fishing for the Sylphie again. Realistically, he has no play here, and he was just trying to fish for Holy Awe and shields. Cranium Clamp just moved to the graveyard. Oh, because of the soul swap. Yeah. It's all coming together. That was a soul swap play. And Belix. So, I mean, this is a pretty reasonable turn, all things considered, right? He gave himself a couple chances to have Holy Awe. He is trying to kill Ice Vapors. I take the free block with Belix while I have it. And a couple things do die. So he actually got himself into a situation where it doesn't even really need to be Holy Awe. Felix blocks 1, and then as long as the other 2 shields are both shield triggers, kind of fine. That said, I can foul back a removal spell for the Belix. And I think that's exactly what happens. I get the Soul Swap back. Soul Swap out Belix for, I guess, foul. Oh no, I do it like this. This is way better. I just get rid of my own Belix and I bounce the Belix. Or yeah, get rid of my Belix for the Surfer. Bounce the Belix. Makes way more sense. And then we're good to go unless it's Holy Awe. There's no blocker now. And there's no shield trigger at all. We take the match 2-1. Kind of a long one, kind of a grind. Might have been less of a grind if I hadn't played so poorly in game 1. No, it wasn't like a disgustingly played game, but I do think there were a couple turns there. Namely, again, I'm still thinking about it 30 minutes later, that Bloom Ice Vapor turn that turned into something totally different. Yeah, that wasn't right, but game 2 was better. Kind of felt like I cheesed game 2 out and got aggressive really early, and it just sort of wound up working out. And game 3 felt real. That felt like how it's supposed to go in the matchup. But hopefully you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, I guess. This is Carl's channel, so maybe don't leave a like. It's up to you. I don't care. Not my channel. But seriously, hope you enjoyed. See you in the next one.